Jy luister na RSG Geldsaake met Moneyweb potgoeie met gasheer Ryk van die Kerk.
Goldfields is een van die grootste goudprodusente in die wêreld. Sy wortels strek terug tot 1887, toe dit deur Cecil John Rhodes en Charles Rudd as die Goldfields of South Africa gestig is, en dit is natuurlik om goud hier in die Witwatersrand te ontgin. Daar was baie samesmeltings en oornames deur die jare, maar die huidige maatskappy is gebore uit die samesmelting van die goudbates van Goldfields of South Africa en Gencor in 1998. Die maatskappy is op die Johannesburgse en New Yorkse aandelebeurse genoteer en dit besit 8 myne in Australië, Peru, Ghana, Kanada, Chili en Suid-Afrika. Die myn in Suid-Afrika is die South Deep myn in Gauteng. Die groep het vandag winssyfers vir 2023 gerapporteer. Die omset was 5% hoër op $4,5 miljard. Die wesensverdienste was 23% laer op $810 miljoen. Die direksie het 'n slotdividend van R24 per aandeel verklaar en dit beteken die totale dividend vir die jaar is R7.45 'n aandeel. Die groep het gedurende die jaar 2,3 miljoen onse goud geproduseer en dit is sowat 75 ton goud. Mike Fraser is die uitvoerende hoof en hy het op 1 Januarie die leiersels geneem by Chris Griffith, wat bedank het nadat die maatskappy se poging om die Kanadese groep Yamana in 2022 oor te neem misluk het. Mike, thank you so much for your time. You've been in the hot seat for 6 weeks. Have you had time to go to all of Goldfields' operations around the world?
Yes, I have had the privilege of traveling to all of our regions in the past 6 weeks. Tragically, I've spent quite a bit of time at South Deep with the team there after the really tragic fatality that we had on the 2nd of January, which is never a great way to start. But in some respects, that has presented a catalyst for us to really rethink how we deliver safe and reliable production in our business. But as you say, this is a business that's been around for a very, very long time. And we are very conscious what we're wanting to do with Goldfields is to continue building a high quality and sustainable business for the future and for the generations to come.
The group has had some, I don't want to say headwinds, but unfortunate developments. The big one, the failed Yamana acquisition, and that is why your predecessor also resigned. So where does Goldfields find itself in currently? Or maybe put differently, how should shareholders look at this performance in the context of what happened over the past few years?
If you look at the background, and I don't want to go into a whole detail of unpacking the Yamana transaction, but the rationale at the time was kind of reasonably sound. It was, if you look at Goldfields, whilst we have a very clear line of sight to a good level of production performance over the next decade, when you look beyond that, we need to start filling the pipeline with good projects. And when you look through transformative M&A, which has always got to be part of the way that you look at strategy, it can be quite viable alternative. And I think the problem is that when you look at long-dated optionality and big transactions, the payback on some of these are sometimes outside of the horizon of our investors. And that's where some of the challenge sits. So whilst it has a lot of strategic logic in the long run, in the short term, sometimes shareholders don't like that. As I see growth for the business, we do need to replace reserves, and that's going to come from a number of sources. I believe there will be further consolidation in the sector, but what I much prefer are kind of bolt-on acquisitions where you find mispriced assets or opportunities to collaborate. And great examples like that are the Windfall acquisition. We're going to partner with Cisco Mining Development. That is a great opportunity. The Tarkwa Idioprim JV with Anglo Gold Ashanti will provide additional opportunities for growth. In addition, working with juniors on advanced exploration projects, we've got a number of partnerships in the portfolio that will allow us to give line of sight at a fairly low-cost way into potential additional resource additions, and also our own near-term mine development. We've got a lot of opportunity to continue to add and convert resource to reserve, and we've demonstrated that in Australia, for example, where we've had a very good program of adding reserves at a very low cost. In Australia, I think we, on average, over the last 7 years, The cost of reserve addition has been below $100 an ounce, which is very good. There's going to be a combination of things that we all apply, and we need to work all of the levers to add reserves for the long term.
The gold price is currently relatively strong, around $2,000 an ounce. I think if it can stay there, virtually all gold mines will report good profits. But you state in your results you believe it may not last, it may pull back a bit, or there's a possibility thereof. So what are your views on the future of the gold price?
We are always sensible and pragmatic. I have a view that I think gold price will be supported for the time being. I think there's a number of global factors that are supportive of gold, not least of which is, I believe, that inflation is going to be sticky for some time, whilst there's been some relief there as we see interest rates coming off, which have to start coming off, otherwise we're really going to have some challenges. There's also strong central buying support. So I think those will continue, particularly because of a bit of polarization that's going on in the world and the reducing reliance on the US dollar, or some people trying to reduce reliance on US dollar for the reserves. And I think that will be all supportive of gold. The other thing is that gold will always have a role to play in people's portfolios. And as we know, we're not the only ones struggling with reserve replacement. And so supply is not going to be that easy to add, in which case I would suspect that would be supportive. But having said all of that, we are very mindful of consensus, which is really a set of really good economic thinking, which comes up with a long-term price point. And we manage our business largely to that. We try and create enough flexibility that we can respond to rapid up cycles and down cycles. But overall, in long-term planning, we plan for a consensus price, which is probably lower than where we are today.
In your overview of the South Deep mine here in South Africa, you referred to the tragic incident where one of your employees passed away, which disrupted operations there. But you also say you find it challenging to get some key skills. Well, that also has an impact on the business. What skills are you looking for and why are they not available?
Correct. The challenge that we had in 2023, and this is largely a problem that we have kind of got over to a degree, is that we were really struggling with drill rig operators, to be perfectly honest. It's a very specific skill. And we were finding, particularly with the development of some new underground projects in South Africa, that some people were attracted away. And we know that we do have very capable people operating in some fairly challenging underground conditions. And they were lured away, and we had to go through a process of replacing those. So there was a bit of a disruption in probably the second and third quarters of last year, but we seem to have got that back on track. And certainly from the beginning of this year, that seems to be a problem that we have resolved. Just an aside, which is really interesting, is that we've actually trialed the first drill operation from surface as an example. So we're really thinking through technology as to how we can mitigate some of those skill shortages. But I think for 2024, I'm confident that we've kind of moved past that crisis that we had last year.
We've seen several other mining groups in South Africa announce job cuts. Are you looking at reducing your workforce?
No, I think one of the things, if you look at goldfields globally, we have around between 21 and 22,000 people that we acknowledge are part of our larger workforce, of which only 6,500 are really our own employees, and the rest are largely contractor provided. I think the improvement in our business is not really going to come through cost cutting and headcount reductions as such, but really driving predictable and reliable production performance and meeting our commitments and slowly incrementing the ramp up, and particularly at South Deep. Last year, we produced 322,000. We think that the right number for that mine long term is around 380,000 ounces, which is certainly achievable. To us, it's a value equation. And what I'd much rather see is us delivering a safe and value accretive ramp up rather than delivering ounces for the sake of ounces.
Dankie Mike, dit was Mike Fraser, hy is die uitvoerende hoof van Goldfields.
Jy het geluister na RSG Geldsaake met Moneyweb Potgoe elke weeksdag om 7:00 p.m. Vir meer Moneyweb Potgoe, besoek moneyweb.co.za of laai die toepassing af en volg Moneyweb News om dagliks op hoogte te bly.